right, let's dive in. Today we are looking at the mind-body connection specifically for swimming.
Okay.
We've got some really cool source material, and I think it's going to be fascinating to kind of unpack all this.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, as an athlete, I always knew that the mental game was important,
Right.
but I never really knew how to train it.
Yeah.
And this source material is awesome because it actually gives you some really practical tips that we can apply.
Yeah, that's what I really like about this, is it goes beyond just like the theory
Right.
of like, oh, your mind is powerful, and it goes into the how.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do we actually kind of train our minds to be stronger in the water?
Yeah. And it's, I think it's really cool because it uses all these examples of these high-performing athletes, like Olympic swimmers.
Right.
And it talks about how, they all have amazing physical abilities.
Yeah.
But what really separates those who are,
At the top.
at the top, yeah, the ones on the podium.
The gold medalists.
Yeah, it's their mindset.
It's their belief.
It's that belief
Yeah.
that they can actually do it.
It's that they've already won it in their mind
Exactly.
so many times.
Right, yeah.
And so I think one of the things that this source does really well is it talks about these mental barriers
Uh-huh.
that we all have,
Yeah.
right? Like those negative thoughts that creep in. I'm not fast enough. I'm not going to make this interval.
Yeah.
I'll never beat my best time.
Right, you're in the middle of a workout
Totally.
and you start thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Or, I'm not as good as so-and-so.
Right. Or, why am I even doing this? This
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yeah.
This is too hard.
Exactly.
And the source material calls these like mental anchors,
Yes.
which I thought was a really
It's a
interesting
great analogy.
because it's like they're weighing you down, right?
Yeah.
They're holding you back.
Yeah, they're preventing you from reaching your full potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah.
But the good news is that the source material also gives us like a 3-step process to overcome these.
Yeah.
So what's the first step?
Well, first you got to be aware of them,
Okay.
right? So you have to be able to recognize when those thoughts are popping up.
It's like shining a light on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to bring them to the surface.
Drag them kicking and screaming into the
Exactly.
light.
Yeah, because a lot of times we're not even aware of these thoughts. They're
Yeah.
just kind of like swimming around in the background.
Yeah, lurking
Yeah,
under the surface.
exactly.
Okay, so that's step 1, awareness.
Yeah.
What about step 2?
Okay, so once you're aware of those thoughts, then you can start to challenge them.
Okay.
So, when you have that thought like, I'm not good enough,
Right.
or I can't do this, you can ask yourself, well, is that really true?
Is there evidence?
Yeah, what evidence do I have to support that? And a lot of times you'll find that those thoughts are not actually based in reality.
Right.
They're based in fear or insecurity.
Yeah, and it's so easy to let those thoughts kind of spiral out of control, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you actually stop and you question them, you realize, oh, wait a minute,
Right.
this is just me, beating myself up.
Exactly.
And so that's step 2 is like the challenge.
Yes.
Okay, so what about step 3? What's the final step?
All right, so once you've challenged those thoughts, you can start to replace them with more positive ones.
Okay.
So instead of thinking, I can't do this, you can think, I can do this.
Right.
Or I'm strong enough to do this.
Love it. I am powerful. I am capable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And what this does is it starts to rewire your brain for success.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially creating new neural pathways.
So it's like we're replacing those negative thoughts with more empowering ones.
Exactly.
It's like we're weeding our mental garden,
That's a great analogy.
right?
Yeah,
Getting rid of the weeds and planting beautiful flowers.
I like that. Yeah.
And so that's the 3-step process, right?
Right.
Awareness, challenge, replace.
That's it.
So simple,
Yeah.
but so powerful.
And I think it's important to remember that this is a process.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens overnight.
It's a practice.
It's a practice, exactly. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Right. And you'll get faster at it too,
Yeah.
right? Like at first it might take a little while to notice
Yeah,
those
exactly.
negative thoughts
Yeah.
and then to challenge them.
Uh-huh.
But over time you'll be like, oh, wait, I know this one. I've seen this one before.
Exactly. Yeah. You start to recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
And you can shut them down quicker.
Love it. All right. So now let's talk about resilience,
Okay.
because I think this is another key theme that comes up in the source material.
Yes. Resilience is huge, especially in swimming.
Huge.
Because, swimming is a sport that's full of setbacks.
Yes, so much failure.
Yeah, you're constantly pushing yourself to your limits.
Right.
And you're going to have days where you don't feel good or you don't swim as fast as you want to.
Your stroke feels terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get discouraged.
Yeah.
But resilience is what allows you to bounce back from those setbacks.
Right. And what's really cool is that the source material talks about how champion swimmers, they don't just view setbacks as like, oh, that was a bad day.
Right.
They actually view them as opportunities.
Yes, as opportunities to learn and grow.
Right. Like they dissect those setbacks, they analyze what went wrong, and then they figure out how to do it better next time.
Yeah, they use it as fuel to get better.
It's like a feedback loop.
Exactly.
It's information. It's valuable information.
Yeah, it's not a failure. It's just data
Right.
that you can use to improve.
Exactly. And I love that mindset shift because it's so easy to get caught up in the negativity of like, oh, I failed.
Yeah.
But if you can flip that and be like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right.
How can I use this to get better?
Exactly.
It becomes so much more empowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's a really key takeaway for listeners.
Yeah.
Is that, setbacks are inevitable, but it's how you respond to them
Right.
that really determines your success.
And your growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're going to grow from those setbacks if you have that resilient mindset.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's get to the really exciting part,
All right.
which is the practical techniques for building that unshakable mindset.
Yes.
So the source material gives us 4 key strategies, and I want to go through each of these in detail
Okay.
because I think they're so valuable.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so the first one is visualization.
Yes. Visualization is huge.
And I know a lot of people think of visualization as just like picturing yourself winning,
Right.
right? Like you're on the podium,
Yeah.
you've got the gold medal,
Yeah.
everyone's cheering,
Uh-huh.
but it's so much more than that.
It's about engaging all of your senses.
Right.
So, when you're visualizing yourself swimming, you want to feel the water. You want to hear the sounds of the pool.
You won't even smell that chlorine.
Exactly. You want to taste the chlorine in the back of your throat.
Right.
It's about creating a full sensory experience
Yeah.
in your mind. And the reason this is so powerful is because it actually helps to rewire your brain.
So it's like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly.
It is.
Yeah, it's like you're actually practicing the race in your mind.
And did you know that Michael Phelps used visualization extensively?
Oh, yeah. He's like the master of visualization.
Yeah, he would visualize every single detail of his races,
Yeah, from his dive to his turns to his finish.
down to like what it would feel like to touch the wall first.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was so successful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's visualization. What about focusing on strengths?
Okay, so focusing on strengths is all about identifying what you're good at
Yeah.
and then using those strengths to your advantage.
Right. So instead of dwelling on your weaknesses,
Right.
you're focusing on your superpowers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to amplify what you're good at.
So maybe you have an amazing kick, or you're really good at maintaining a consistent pace. Whatever it is you want to focus on. Then.
Yeah, and the reason this is so important is because it helps to build your confidence.
Right.
When you focus on your strengths, you start to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And that confidence can really translate into better performance.
Absolutely. All right, so that's focusing on strengths. What about cultivating a positive environment?
Okay, so cultivating a positive environment is all about surrounding yourself with people who support you
Right.
and who believe in you.
So it could be your coaches, your teammates, your family, your friends.
Exactly, yeah. Anyone who makes you feel good
Right.
and who encourages you to pursue your goals.
Because negativity is contagious, but so is positivity.
Absolutely.
So if you can surround yourself with people who are positive and supportive, it's going to rub off on you.
Exactly, and it's going to make it so much easier to stay motivated.
Right.
And to keep pushing forward even when things get tough.
It's like having your own personal cheer squad.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's cultivating a positive environment. And then the final strategy is gratitude.
Yes. Gratitude is huge.
And this one might seem a little bit out of place,
Right.
but I think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree.
So what is gratitude and why is it important for swimmers?
So gratitude is basically just taking the time to appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
So you can be grateful for the opportunity to swim.
Right.
You can be grateful for your health.
Your body,
Yeah, your body, your support system.
the people in your life.
Exactly.
And the reason gratitude is so powerful is because it helps to shift your focus from what you don't have
Right.
to what you do have.
Exactly. And it helps to create a more positive mindset.
Yeah, it's like a mental reset button.
Yeah. I like that.
right? It's like when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed,
Mhm.
you can just take a moment to be grateful for all the good things in your life.
Yeah, and it can really change your perspective.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the 4 key strategies. Visualization, focusing on strengths, cultivating a positive environment, and gratitude.
That's it.
And I think the key takeaway here is that a positive mindset is not something that just happens.
Right.
It's something that you have to cultivate.
Yeah, it's like a muscle.
It's a practice.
Yeah, it's a practice. You got to work at it.
Right. And the more you work at it, the stronger it will become.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up,
Mhm.
I think the big takeaway from this whole deep dive is that the mind-body connection is real
Absolutely.
and it's powerful.
Yeah.
And that mental strength is not just a nice to have,
Right.
it's a necessity.
It's essential for success.
If you want to reach your full potential as a swimmer,
Yeah, absolutely.
you have to train your mind just as hard as you train your body.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of swimmers overlook,
Right.
but this source material really highlights how important it is.
And gives us those tools to do it.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
If you could eliminate one mental barrier that's holding you back in swimming,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
That's a good one.
And how would that transformation affect your performance?
I think that's a great question for all the listeners to reflect on.
Because we all have those mental barriers,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes just identifying them is the first step to overcoming them.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to really think about that. What's that one mental barrier that's holding you back?
Yeah.
And what would it be like to swim without it?
What would your swimming look like if that wasn't there?
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with me.
Yeah, this is great.
I always learned so much from these conversations,
What too?
and I hope the listeners did as well.
I hope so.
So until next time, keep your mind sharp and your strokes even sharper.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.